Welcome to the Living the Dream podcast with Curveball. If you believe, you can achieve. Welcome to the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, a show where I interview guests that teach, motivate, and inspire. Today, we're going to be talking about bringing out the champion in you, as I am joined by Doctor, entrepreneur, and author, Doctor Cindy Starke. She deals with activities like mindset, sleep, relationships, food, eating habits, all that good stuff, and she works with people to help them bring out the champion in them. So we're going to be talking to her about everything that she's up to and anything that she might have upcoming. So Dr. Starke, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, Curtis, thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be here and talking to your guest this morning.
Well, why don't you start off by telling everybody a little bit about yourself?
Yes, sir. My name is Doctor Cindy Starke. I'm an internal medicine physician up here in Gainesville, Georgia. And I always kind of start by telling people what led me into medicine. It was a series of unfortunate events that happened in my childhood that made me really want to get far away from some things that were happening to me in my childhood home, and including some sexual abuse at the hands of my brother's friends when I was 14 to 15 years old. And I really saw education and medicine as a way of kind of keeping myself busy and away from those young men and their drugs and alcohol for a good 17 years. You know, I didn't realize when I kind of left at the beginning and I was starting on a pathway of just getting a bachelor's degree. I didn't realize that I was going to keep on going and not really finish school till I was 32 years old. But that's what I did. And it really opened my eyes to a whole nother way of living, Curtis. And it was I met a lot of wonderful people on the way, and I think most of the people that I met, they all were kind of going into medicine because their moms or their dads were medical doctors, but that wasn't the case with me. It was more to escape some childhood trauma, and so it was a blessing. It was really hard, but I persevered and I did it. And I always say that I'm really happy that I kind of carved my own path and kind of marched to the beat of my own drum, you know?
Well, definitely congratulations on that. So you're also an entrepreneur. Is that different than your doctor practice, or let us know about that?
Yeah. Oh, yes. So I had been practicing medicine for almost 30 years, and I kind of realized that I really wasn't helping anybody really get a whole lot better in their life. My patients just seemed to, as soon as I would kind of patch them up and get them better from whatever disease or, infection that they were, succumbing to in that moment in the emergency room. And then I would hospitalize them because that's the kind of doctor I am, as a hospital doctor. I just realized that these same patients, they just kept coming back a month later with the exact same problem. And I said, I'm not really helping these people get better at all. I'm just kind of putting a Band-Aid on a bleeding artery. And I said, I really want to make an impact in people's lives. And I just realized that none of these people are really getting any better. I'm just making numbers look better on a sheet of paper. And so I kind of started, it actually happened during the pandemic. I was gifted with a lot of extra time on my hands, and I underwent a lot of therapy to kind of heal my childhood trauma that I've been running from, Curtis. And I realized I could help other people overcome their childhood trauma and I developed this really cool online group of men and women called Soul Circle Academy. And we call ourselves that because it's like a bunch of us souls uniting in a shape of a circle, like holding hands. Imagine like a bunch of men and women holding hands in a circle. And we kind of walk each other through making sense of what we were raised with. And we're like chain breakers. And we do a lot of inner child resourcing, and we do not want to repeat the mistakes of our past. And so that's my entrepreneur um, kind of direction that I've gone, creating these online academies. And then also I quit full-time medicine. I retired from full-time medicine, and I just changed instead, Curtis, into really doing what lights me up, which is still seeing some patients in the bedside, but I'm just kind of like a moonlighter. So I just kind of work a few shifts whenever I can help out different small communities in the North Georgia mountains. But then I also do some work with home health and hospice too. So I'm kind of like a jack of all trades. I take care of people's mindsets and mind, body, and soul.
Well, tell us about the genetic research that you did and got published and how that's helping people.
Well, that's not really helping people right now with what I'm doing. I never really used any of that, to be completely honest. My genetic research was, it's when I was in medical school and graduate school together, and I got published in 7 different journals. But that was a bacterial research. It was studying the intricacies of DNA replication and transcription of RNA. And that really has nothing to do with what I'm doing right now at all. I never was able to. I always tell people I don't use my PhD except for that it made me think critically in a different way. But I'm not using that in any kind of patient care or in clients that are in my Soul Circle Academy. No, sir.
Okay. Well, one thing you are using is your book titled From Fear and Failure to the Finish Line, award-winning author. So tell us about that book and why you decided to write it and what listeners can expect when they read it.
Yes. So I did a triathlon in my mid 40s. I was hanging around with a bunch of people that were really into fitness, and I was a group fitness instructor at this military academy where I live. And we had groups of men and women that would meet at 5:30 in the morning every Monday through Friday, and we all did all these insane challenges together to try to push ourselves to the limits of what we can do. And we were just all really into just seeing what all the human body is capable of. And I did this Ironman triathlon at age 46. I trained for 2 years, 6 days a week. I hired a coach. I got this amazing bike. I got a swimming coach, a biking coach, and was ready for this event, Curtis. Like I said, literally trained almost every day for 2 years. And when I came up to that day where I started to swim, I did my 2.4 mile ocean swim down in Panama City Beach. It was a beautiful morning. And then I transitioned into my bike, and I got 80 miles done out of the 120 miles that was ahead of me that day. And I looked up. So I was well over halfway into the day of the biking and running and swimming. And there was a big group of people that were standing in the middle of my path and making me stop. And I was like, I was in a twilight zone. I'm like, what in the world is happening? I mean, I've been racing for 8 hours at this point. And they said, you're 10 minutes too slow, and you're going to have to leave the course now, Miss Stark. I said, what? And I looked around me, Curtis, and there were like 40 or 50 other men and women that were in the same situation. And they put us all of us and our bikes in the back of this van and took us back to the start line. And anyway, I was absolutely devastated. And that book is I had to write that book because I said to myself, I am not going to have spent 2 years of my life doing all of this and have my story end this way with a big fat failure. And so I talked to my coach. I said, what can I do? How can I make right of all this? And what had happened is that I hadn't memorized the route of the bike route that day. And I thought I was lost, and I started going really, really slow. And that's why I was 10 minutes too slow. So it wasn't through inadequate training. It was just inadequate preparation of knowing the routes. He said, Cindy, he said, we can find you another one to do next week. And next week, that day was Thanksgiving Day in Mexico. I'm like, I'm not going to go to Mexico in a week at the drop of a hat and miss Thanksgiving with my family. I said, I can do one maybe in January, but I'm not going to leave my kids. I've left them enough for these 2 years from all this training, right? So the book is about how I found another Ironman triathlon to sign up for. And I crossed the finish line, Curtis. I repeated the training, and I showed up and did the dang thing and got the medal and wrote a book to tell the story about it. And it was the best day ever.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thank
So,
you.
what do you feel like is the key points that readers should take away from your book?
Oh, goodness. Well, the message of the book is how if you will divide a really, really, really big task, no matter what it is that you want to do in your life, if you have a really clear picture of what you want to do, and in the book, of course, the end goal was the completion of an Ironman triathlon. It was a 17-hour endurance event. It was 2.5 hours of swimming, 8.5 hours of biking, and like 6 hours ish of running at the end of the day. Starts at 7 a.m, ends at midnight. And that seems absolutely undoable and impossible at the outset. But if you divide it into little bitty pieces, and by little, I mean, I did no more some days than run 30 minutes or bike 30 minutes or swim 20 minutes. But you do it over and over and over again, you will be able to complete your goal. And so that's message number one. No matter what you want to do in life, if you can divide it down into small enough pieces, you can do it. And you got to stay committed to it, to all the daily activities. And number two is find yourself some mentors or people that are rooting for you. And it's like God sends little angels and helps you along your way to get things done. So the message is there's power in numbers, and to let people help you. Don't try to be an island or a rock and do it all yourself.
Okay, tell us about some of the biggest challenges that you faced throughout your life that have taught you the most, or the most important lessons.
I feel like I just talked about a bunch of them. But I can just reiterate. Number one is that even if you come from a family of alcoholics and sexual abuse and uneducated people, you can do whatever you want to do if you are able to dream enough, and you can, set your mind to anything you want. And number two is, again, the message of the triathlon, that if you get people to support you along the way and accountability and stay focused to your goal, you can accomplish anything in your life. And then the other thing that I shared earlier about being a doctor, even if you've been a doctor for 30 years and it's not lighting you up anymore, it's okay to quit and pivot and find a way that, whatever it is that you were doing in your life, it can still light you up, but you just do it in a different way and a different rhythm and a different cadence, and make your happiness a priority. And even if no one else is doing it, you can do it. And so just believe in yourself, really. And those are the big messages in my life, and what I've learned the most about leaving full-time medicine, leaving my family's generational patterns of destruction, and then that failure of that triathlon.
Well, tell us about any current or upcoming projects that you're working on that people need to know about.
Well, right now, I just started a podcast of my own, so I need to have you on my podcast. It's called Build a Fulfilling Life. and it's all about people. We haven't released it yet. We're just doing, my friend Melissa and I are doing some pre-recordings right now, but we are working on getting a message out of how people can build a more fulfilling life using these tools that she and I have become certified in. We help people rewire their subconscious mind and get rid of limiting beliefs that come from their childhood. And we inspire people that they don't have to be the sum of their past. And I don't know when it's going to be released yet, because we've only recorded 2 or 3 of them and we just got this idea. But yeah, that's what's coming up next. And then a book that I'm writing with my psychologist about how I escaped my the limitations of my childhood and a very destructive, painful marriage, and came out with learning lessons that will kind of carry me through the rest of my life. So yeah, a book and a podcast, and I don't have the title of either one and the release date, but that's what I'm working on.
Okay, well, I'd love to be on. Just let me know.
Okay, I will.
Throw out your contact info so people can keep up whenever you get the titles and release dates for your projects.
Okay, yeah, everybody can find me. It's just my name, drcindystarke.com, and Stark has an E on the end. And my existing book is there, and then my next one will be there, and then every podcast I've ever been on. And I actually also have a 30-minute training that I have on there too, Curtis, that people can watch. And I try to upload a blog there every week, and it's everything me is on that one place, kind of one-stop shopping.
Okay, drcindystarke.com. Close us out with some final thoughts. Maybe if that was something I forgot to touch on that you would like to talk about, or just any final thoughts you have for the listeners.
Yes, sir. Again, just really to reiterate that I just want your listeners to know that they can do whatever it is that they want to do in their life. And if they're feeling like they're kind of stuck in Groundhog's Day, where every day is a carbon copy of the day before, and they're not getting where they want to go in life, in their relationships, in their business, just in self-confidence, watch my training and I kind of go through what's required. But there is a way that's out there that we can teach you, and it is how to rewire your subconscious mind for success. And I always say, Curtis, it's easy, but it's not simple. It's a very easy method. It just takes 30 minutes every other day, but you have to commit 30 minutes every other day and do it. But you can literally go in and delete any kind of negative and limiting societal programming, parental programming, religious programming, educational programming, and really live your best life with all the confidence that God intended for us to have.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So if you're interested in that training, checking out everything that Dr. Starke is up to, drcindystarke.com is the website. Please be sure to follow, rate, review, share this episode to as many people as possible. If you have any suggestions or feedback for the show, cjackson102@cox.net is the place to send them. Jump on your favorite podcast app, hit that follow button, leave us a review. Thank you for listening and supporting the show. And Dr. Starke, thank you for joining us and sharing your expertise.
Thank you so much again, Curtis. I really appreciate being here with you today.
For more information on the Living the Dream podcast, visit www.djcurveball.com. Until next time, stay focused on living the dream.